My name is Jesse Banal, and I'm counsel to the Trump campaign. Donald Trump won the state of Nevada after you account for the fraud and irregularities that occurred in the election. This afternoon, we have filed a contest of the election in Carson City District Court. And we are asking the court to recognize the fact that President Trump was victorious in this election. I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matt Schlapp.
Thank you, Jesse. Today's an important day about trusting free elections in America. As we have gone through this process since Election Day, we have been guided by facts, math, and science. Every American needs to trust what happens when we vote, and especially the 73.3 million Americans who voted for the president. They deserve answers, they need transparency, and they need it right now. In all my years in politics, I have never seen the types of voter irregularity we have seen in Clark County. The zeal to push reckless, unsolicited mail-in voting resulted in 50% of ballots coming through the mail and a tenfold increase in mail ballots in Clark County. Fact. The voter lists were never appropriately scrubbed, including the press reports after FOIA requests of not scrubbing over 80,000 primary voters before the general election ballots were made. Fact. Illegal ballots never should have been mailed, and they never should have ended up in the final tally. How did this happen? This happened with a reckless change in Nevada election rules right before the general election, which reduced the democratic norms of meaningful observation by the media and by Americans. The reduction of ballot security and almost the elimination of signature verification. Nevada and Clark County have created this crisis. Reckless, unsolicited, mail-in voting has created this crisis. There have been so many volunteers since Election Day, many of whom are here today, many more could not make it because they continue to work night and day to expose the truth. That's what we're guided by. The truth. Be it something we want to hear, or be it something we not want to hear. We don't like discovering the historic levels of voter irregularity. For all these volunteers, for all these lawyers, both in Nevada and around the country, who have been attacked, who have been doxxed, who have lost professional opportunities, all for standing up for just transparency of information from the government to her citizens, we honor you. To the whistleblowers, over a dozen here in Nevada and growing, and to the whistleblowers around the country, we thank you. We admire you. We stand with you. We have talked with you about the threats that you fear you will face for simply trying to point out the wrongdoing and the illegality that you observed. And to my fellow Americans, I think we all know this and have this in common. We would love to heal and to unite. That cannot happen until the truth is revealed, until the facts are known, until people have answers to their questions. And Adam Laxalt is going to walk through those facts in this case.
Thank you, Matt.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, today's an important day for Nevada. Over the last 10 days or so, the media has continued to ask for the evidence of the irregularities that we found in this election. In fact, some media already concluded a few days ago that there was no fraud presented. And I need everyone to understand the Herculean task that we face to try to, from the outside of a system, help shine a light on the irregularities in this system. We don't own the system. We aren't part of the system. There are no former FBI investigators. There's no former team of Attorney General, PI investigators. These are people that are volunteering. These are people that have given the last few weeks of their lives trying to run down the complaints we've received from across the state. Everyone has some experience in the last few weeks that leaves them some doubt about whether this election was conducted freely and fairly. A number of you in the media I spoke to off the record that said people in your newsrooms had extra ballots mailed to their homes, or they felt that someone else had potentially cast the ballot on their behalf. These are stories that poured in, and again, we are trying to take an imperfect system and do our best to shine light. So it's an important day for Nevada because this lawsuit is bigger than whether the president won Nevada or former Vice President Joe Biden won Nevada. This lawsuit is about taking this collected effort, this collected work, and presenting it in an election contest. And let me just say that many people started complaining in August when this system was fundamentally transformed. The concerns of the radical transformation of this election were put in op-eds, they were put in news interviews, they were put anywhere people would listen. And these concerns ended up bearing true. Now, what are the primary concerns of what we face? We converted to this wide-scale mail-in balloting election. As was already recounted, we had a lot of improper ballots being mailed to people's homes and apartment buildings and across the valley. Now, we were told that the much vaunted signature verification process would cure any potential for someone to take a loose ballot, to fill out who they would vote for, and sign the envelope and mail it back in. What we are providing today in this lawsuit is that many of these votes were improperly cast. We are presenting today in our formal contest that there are north of 15,000 people who voted in Nevada and another state. We are presenting that people voted in people that had already done a change of address and left the state outside of the 30-day requirement. Their ballots were still cast. We are also presenting dead voters. Now, it's important for everyone to understand. We don't get to pick up the phone and call the registrar and say, "We think we've found a dead voter. Will you confirm or deny this is a dead voter?" There's nothing in this process that allows that. And I encourage you to ask Joe Gloria, as he said in press conferences. There is no forward investigatory process in the Clark County voting system. There is no one right now in this system that is combing through voter rolls and is looking for dead people that may have voted in this election. I hope everybody understands that. I hope everyone accepts that as fact. They are a complaint-based system. So an individual has to complain that they think something happened, And then even then, Joe Gloria says those complaints are forwarded to the Secretary of State's office. So I will only leave one example. If a person has died and that ballot was mailed to someone's home and someone voted that ballot, who is going to complain about that vote cast? No one, quite clearly. So the system isn't investigating these things. And so we've brought forward these classes of voters. Now, what are the other class of voters that we think make up the number that puts this presidential election in jeopardy? The mail-in ballot system, which in Clark County was upwards of 500,000 votes, started with a machine. This machine was the first pass for signature verification. Okay? Now, we've spoken to experts, and this is part of our lawsuit. We've spoken to many what they call AI experts and computer vision experts. And what you will find is that this machine doesn't have some large professional body, an election integrity body that has certified this machine to be used to verify signatures. Okay? You will also find that in Clark County, they took the factory setting and they adjusted it to 40% of a signature match. Now, what these people will say is once Clark County took that factory setting and they manually adjusted it, it makes the results of the signature match unverified and something that cannot be relied upon. They will also say, and this came out in one of our hearings, the Clark County elections admitted in a hearing that the factory setting for this machine wants a particular quality of photo image to match. And so any of you that signed your ballot and sent it through this machine, your signature is this high quality photo image. Now what they said in court is that the signature that they're using to match came from the Nevada system. And that signature, that photo quality was well below the 200. So we have two different reasons why the matches of north of 100, between 130 to 200,000 signatures that were verified with this machine are not reliable. These are the classes that we are presenting to this court. These are the classes that we believe are in jeopardy for this particular election. And next I want to turn to Jesse to go over at least a few other irregularities that are in the lawsuit.
Thank you, Adam. Of course, meaningful observation is key to any free election system. Worldwide, being able to have observers watch the whole process is something that goes to the heart of any democratic republic. We didn't have that through too much of this election process. It was done in the shadows and the dark. Also, provisional ballots were handled irregularly, and different voters were treated differently depending on what polling location they went to and when they went there, giving some people the right to vote and taking that right from others. You had unfortunate situations where there was schemes set up to give voters something of value, raffle tickets, t-shirts, other things like that, if they would come and vote. Something that violates federal law, something that violates Nevada law. What's worse, and that you don't even have to prove this to show that it's unlawful, is that same campaign that paid people to vote were encouraging people to come out and vote for the Biden-Harris ticket. You had a lack of security in too many of the systems for voting, making it far too susceptible to bad actors. and the bad actors came. The fraud came. We have one eyewitness, one whistleblower, who actually saw people filling out ballots at Biden-Harris van. This fraud, these irregularities, cannot stand in a free society. It takes and dilutes the votes, dilutes the rights of Nevadans and Americans who should all have an equal vote. And that's what this campaign is doing. That's why we are here. We want every legal vote to count. We want full observation and transparency. And we want to hold accountable now a system that was ripe for fraud and allowed that fraud to come. And that's why we're going to court. We'll be able to take a few questions.
I want to ask real quick. Jesse, you started off the press conference by saying that Donald Trump won Nevada.
Yes.
Do you plan in this lawsuit to give specific evidence, names, addresses, of some 35,000 voters that need the margin that you would need to prove that statement?
We are going to give evidence, and we have evidence of, in various different forms, of irregularities and fraud in this process that span that gulf between Vice President Biden and President Trump, to show that the irregularities are such that the media's declaration that Joe Biden won Nevada is wrong, and President Trump was indeed the victor of Nevada. We have declarations. We have declarations from over 400 people, just so far, Nevadans, that go to the fact that these irregularities and this fraud existed. And we are going to put on evidence admissible in a court of law and let a court see what actually happened here.
Are you filing, sir, in state court again up in Carson City, or where are you filing exactly?
Yes, sir. So this is a state court action because it's an election contest.
How do you plan to get around it? Obviously, a lot of us watched the hearing before Judge Wilson. Regarding the Agilus machine, to the layman here, it sounds like you're making some of the same arguments you made before Judge Wilson. How do you plan to get around it? Is this a different case you're presenting regarding the Agilus, or is it the same one?
It's a different case with different parties and different issues. And one of the issues that already was previously considered by the court is whether the plaintiffs in that case, for instance, had standing. And so there will be a number of legal issues decided, but we're quite confident in the fact that when the law and the facts are clearly adjudicated in this matter, that it will be very clear that once all the voting happened, once everything occurred, the results were unreliable because of the irregularities and the fraud.
Mr. Bernal, did I hear you? Did I hear you properly a couple of minutes ago? Say voters were paid to vote for Biden?
Specifically, voters were given something of value to vote.
What was the thing of value?
A raffle ticket, items of clothing. The raffle tickets were for cash cards. And that's something that's clearly against the law, to give someone something of value to vote. And then, on top of that, the same campaign that was doing the raffles, that was giving people shirts and cash cards and everything else like that, also said to encourage people wearing Biden-Harris paraphernalia, encourage them to come out and vote for the Biden-Harris ticket.
What campaign? I'm sorry if I missed it. What campaign was doing it? Who was paying, giving out raffle tickets and stuff like that?
It's a campaign that's fully explained in the lawsuit. It happened all over the country, and we can get you more details specifically on that.